Millionaire chooses street girl over 83 finalists. Her traitorous move leaves everyone stunned. The storm raged through the city, a wild symphony of shrieking winds and pounding rain. Under the chaos of a bridge, amid the painted concrete, stood Lily, young, fierce, and illuminated by flickering streetlights. Her brush flew across the wall, splashing vibrant colors that spoke of hope, love, and the gritty truth of her neighborhood. Every stroke was a rebellion, a scream against the shadows of her past, as she transformed the cold, gray surface into a tapestry of life. Her heart swelled with both pride and sorrow. Miles away, in the dazzling chaos of a gala, Jackson was expected to make an important decision. Clad in a tailored suit, his presence commanded respect and admiration from the affluent crowd. Gazes were fixed upon him, each finalist parading their polished dreams and extravagant visions for a charitable project. Yet, in that moment, amid the glimmer and glam, he, an actual street artist, like nothing you've ever encountered. He brushed it off at first, but as the moments ticked by, a restless itch urged him on. Was it instinct, or merely fate beckoning him? Rain lashed harder as he stepped out of his luxury car, the splendid gala behind him slipping away like a forgotten dream. The contrast was shocking. The chaos of the city electrified him. He slipped through the alleyways, each turn leading him closer to the tantalizing sounds of spray paint on concrete. Finally, he found her, Lily so alive as the colors exploded around her, bright and fearless against the night. Intrigued, Jackson approached, forgetting all about the 83 finalists. Lily's eyes widened in surprise as she turned. Her brush halted mid-stroke. The air hung thick with unspoken words. The chaotic rhythm of the city faded into silence. For a heartbeat, nothing mattered. Just the two of them, lost in an unexpected moment. But whispers circulated like wildfire. What would the elite think? How could he choose a street artist over established talent? With each passing glance, the tension thickened. Meanwhile, Lily felt the weight of an undesired attention creeping in, stirring up memories she wished to bury. As joy mixed with the bitterness of her past, an old friend emerged from the shadows, her eyes ablaze with resentment. A rival, claiming to know the truth about Lily. As the storm intensified, so did their struggle. Jackson's heart raced. Could he truly venture into her world? Meanwhile, Lily's hands trembled at the thought of revealing her secrets. Would she dare let him closer, knowing the past could unravel everything? An unexpected betrayal loomed large over them, threatening to fracture the fragile connection they had forged in chaos. With raindrops like daggers falling around them, neither could ignore the heart-wrenching choices lying ahead. Would love triumph, or would society's judgment tear them apart? As the city roared, uncertainty gripped their hearts, leaving one crucial question. Could they trust one another against the storm? Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, leave a like to help me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. The storm raged on, echoing the turmoil in each of their hearts. Jackson stood frozen, his gaze locked on Lily, but the moment shattered when a loud crash echoed from the alley. The Gru. Get away from her! One shouted, spitting venom in Jackson's direction as he advanced. The confrontation sparked disbelief. Jackson had never felt more vulnerable. The suit that once cocooned him in confidence suddenly felt like a straitjacket. Lily's heart raced. Panic surged as she recognized the figures. They were old ghosts from her past, remnants of a life she'd fought to escape. "No, not tonight!" she cried, but they silenced her with sneering laughter. "Told you she's a traitor," one of them sneered, eyes gleaming with malice. "Fooling a rich boy, are you? He doesn't know who you really are." Jackson's heart pounded in his chest as the weight of those words pressed upon him. "What do you mean?" he shot back, his voice teetering between confusion and anger. "Lily isn't the innocent artist you think she is," another spat. "She's a scam artist. She's in this for the money. You're just another mark on her list." Lily's breath hitched. The truth twisted in her belly like a knife. Seconds felt like hours. She had buried secrets, but now they clawed their way to the surface. Anguish surged through her, and the walls of her carefully constructed life threatened to collapse. Jackson's eyes darted to Lily, searching for reassurance, but she remained silent, trembling. Why wasn't she defending herself? "Is it true?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper, hurt spilling over like the rain. The question stung more than any punch. "Get away from her!" Lily stepped forward, rage igniting within her. She would not let them destroy the only peace she had found. "You don't know anything about me. You don't get to decide who I am." But the group closed in, surrounding them, shadows painting the scene as fear painted Lily's heart. "You think you know her, but she'll leave you high and dry, just like she did to those other fools." "Stop it!" Jackson shouted, his voice cracking. He felt sick, each accusation wrapped around his chest. Every heartbeat felt like betrayal. The gales streamed around them, the rain lashing down as he faced Lily, desperation clouding his judgment. "Lily, what's going on?" In that instant, piercing through the storm, a sharp report echoed. Gunfire! Time froze. Everything halted as Lily's eyes widened in horror. "No!" she screamed, darting toward Jackson. But it was too late. A body crumpled to the ground, the noise swallowed by the chaos. A figure rushed forward, revealing a man bearing the same menacing smile as the rest. "This is for you!" he shouted, pointing directly at Lily before vanishing into the rain. Jackson felt as if the world had exploded around him. The realization crashed down. Lily was more connected to the underbelly of the city than he'd ever imagined. Was everything he'd begun to feel for her built on lies? Fear gripped his throat, and as the rain mingled with the blood pooling on the pavement, he turned to Lily, searching her face for the truth. "No. Please," she choked, tears mixing with the rain. The storm raged on, but within that chaos, they stood on the precipice of a far darker truth. Could he trust her now? Would love stand against the dark tides that threatened to drown them both? The rain fell harder, pounding down like a war drum. Lily's heart raced, each beat echoing the panic swirling in her chest. She tried to reach Jackson, but he seemed lost in the storm of confusion and hurt. The faces of the men around them twisted like shadows, their words slicing through the air. "Lily, what's going on?" Jackson's voice cracked, desperation wrapping around every syllable. Fear painted his eyes as he searched her face, looking for answers. The world spun. Every accusing word hung in the air, pulling them deeper into despair. The chaos escalated, voices shouting over each other, drowning out the sound of the rain. That gunshot had torn an invisible thread, ripping apart the fragile bond they'd just begun to forge. But then, just as the storm raged, something shifted in Lily. In a flash, she made a decision. "We have to get out of here!" she shouted, grabbing Jackson's arm. The panic in her voice startled him, waking him from his daze. But as they turned to flee, a figure emerged from the shadows. A woman! Her long coat flapping like a flag in the winds. "Stop right there!" she commanded, her voice piercing through the tumult. It silenced the chaos for a moment. A curl of recognition twisted in Lily's gut, but she couldn't place it. Who was this woman? As they froze, the rain cascaded around them, blending with the tension. The woman's gaze locked onto Lily, piercing and fierce. "This isn't over, traitor." Her words cut like glass, bringing every hidden secret to the surface. "Who are you?" Jackson shot back, but the woman didn't flinch. Instead, her attention shifted, her eyes narrowing at him. "You really don't know?" A jolt of confusion pulsed through the air. "Know what?" Jackson pressed, glancing between the two women. The storm around them roared, but inside the bubble of silence, it was all hushed whispers. "Lily isn't just some artist." The woman stepped closer, her voice dropping. "She's part of something much darker. She's been playing a game and you're the prize." Lily felt the ground drop from beneath her. The truth hung heavy, memories twisted like vines inside her mind. Everything felt fragile, like a house of cards ready to topple over. "No, that's not true," she stammered, grasping for words to protect her truth. But the woman continued, undeterred. "You think you understand her?" she spat at Jackson. "She's been living a double life, sleeping with the enemy, all for a score." A silence blanketed the alley, and the storm raged louder. Jackson's eyes searched Lily's face for answers, but the hurt there was layered with fear. "Is it true?" he whispered. Staring back at him, Lily felt the dam inside her crack. "It's complicated!" The words fell from her lips like stones, heavy and unavoidable. Before she could explain, the rain turned to a downpour, as if the heavens were weeping. Suddenly, the woman lunged, grabbing Lily by the wrist. A sudden pull and a scream echoed as they vanished into the shadows. The alley swallowed them whole. Jackson stood frozen, his heart hammering in his chest. "Lily!" he shouted, but his voice was drowned out by the chaotic sounds of the storm. Then he heard a low growl, the unmistakable sound of sirens in the distance. Time was running out. He had to make a choice. Torn between the truth he craved and the love that seemed to be slipping through his fingers. As he took a step toward the shadows, A chilling question clawed at his mind. Who was Lily really? And what had he gotten himself into? The storm raged on, and the truth loomed just out of reach, waiting to shatter everything he thought he understood. Jackson's heart raced as the rain hit him like a cold slap. He felt paralyzed, the shouts around him fading into a blur. The shadows shifted, and he looked down the alley, breathless. What had just happened? Lily was gone! The woman's fierce gaze held him for just a second before she vanished, too. A weight of their conversation loomed like a dark cloud. Who was she? Why had she called Lily a traitor? With every moment that ticked away, panic knotted tighter in his chest. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. He had to act. "Lily!" he shouted again, voice raw, but only the rain answered back. He moved forward, ready to chase after the shadows, when he caught a glimpse of something on the ground. Something bright and gleaming amidst the puddles. He crouched down, heart pounding, reaching out. It was a bracelet, silver and intricate, but the weight pulled at his gut. It was Lily's. His pulse quickened as he turned it over in his hand. There, hidden among the delicate charms, was a small engraved plate that read, "Forgive me." Confusion unfurled within him. Why did it say that? What had she done? The sirens grew louder, and the approach of flashing lights cut through the chaos. He stood up, trembling. He couldn't let the police find him here. He needed to leave, to figure out what was really happening. But as he turned to go, the woman from before reappeared, stepping out of the shadows once more. "Stop!" she yelled, voice shaking with urgency. "You shouldn't be here." "What do you know about Lily?" Jackson shot back, adrenaline coursing through him. "Tell me!" The woman's eyes softened for a moment, a flicker of something almost human in the flashing lights. "She's not who you think she is. You need to trust me." "Trust you?" he scoffed. "You just called her a traitor. What am I supposed to believe?" The storm intensified around them. Raindrops so heavy it felt like they were stinging. "You need to understand," she pressed, stepping closer, urgency rippling from her. "Lily has been working with people who would sell you out. They put her in a position where she had to choose." Before he could respond, a low rumble echoed down the alley. Another moment of stillness. Suddenly, a blinding light pierced through the darkness. Jackson squinted, shielding his eyes as a car screeched to a halt. Out stepped a man in a dark suit, his face twisted into a menacing grin. "Looks like we found our little runaway," he said, glancing at Jackson with sinister amusement. "And who's this? Another fool in love with a broken girl?" Jackson's heart sank. This man knew Lily? Panic clawed at him again, but he had to stay focused. The woman beside him drew in a sharp breath, eyes wide with fear. "It's too late," she whispered, backing away. "They're here for her. They'll do anything to take her back." The man approached, eyes narrowing. "You think you can protect her? You're just a distraction. The moment you stood between her and us, you sealed her fate." "Lily!" Jackson was shouting now, his voice breaking. "Lily!" Just then, he felt a hand grab his arm. It was the woman. "Get out! You need to run!" But before he could pull away, something sharp pricked his side. He glanced down to see that the man held a silver knife. gleaming wickedly in the rain. "Stay right where you are, or it'll be the last mistake you ever make," he hissed, eyes glinting. With a jolt, Jackson realized something. The sirens were getting louder, but he couldn't be caught. Not now, not like this. The woman with him whispered urgently, "They're looking for her, but they won't hesitate to take you too." In that moment, the tension snapped like a brittle branch. Jackson turned to the alleyway, desperate. Was this the truth of Lily's betrayal he'd feared? Was she already lost to the darkness? And then the world exploded, with a flash of red and blue lights surrounding them, sirens roaring, and the ground trembling beneath the chaos of what had just begun. "Run!" he yelled as the man lunged at him. But Jackson pushed past the fear. He had to find Lily. He had to uncover the truth before it consumed them both forever. Did he even know her at all? The storm raged, but the real tempest was only just beginning. Jackson's heart raced as the rain hit him like a cold slap. He felt paralyzed, the shouts around him fading into a blur. The shadows shifted, and he looked down the alley, breathless. What had just happened? Lily was gone. The woman's fierce gaze held him for just a second before she vanished too. The weight of their conversation loomed like a dark cloud. Who was she? Why had she called Lily a traitor? With every moment that ticked away, panic knotted tighter in his chest. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. He had to act. "Lily!" he shouted again, voice raw, but only the rain answered back. He moved forward, ready to chase after the shadows, when he caught a glimpse of something on the ground. Something bright and gleaming amidst the puddles. He crouched down, heart pounding, reaching out. It was a bracelet, silver and intricate, but the weight pulled at his gut. It was Lily's. His pulse quickened as he turned it over in his hand. There, hidden among the delicate charms, was a small engraved plate that read, "Forgive me." Confusion unfurled within him. Why did it say that? What had she done? The sirens grew louder, and the approach of flashing lights cut through the chaos. He stood up, trembling. He couldn't let the police find him here. He needed to leave, to figure out what was really happening. But as he turned to go, the woman from before reappeared, stepping out of the shadows once more. "Stop!" she yelled, voice shaking with urgency. "You shouldn't be here." "Ha! What do you know about Lily?" Jackson shot back, adrenaline coursing through him. "Tell me." The woman's eyes softened for a moment, a flicker of something almost human in the flashing lights. "She's not who you think she is. You need to trust me." "Trust you?" he scoffed. "You just called her a traitor. What am I supposed to believe?" The storm intensified around them, raindrops so heavy it felt like they were stinging. "You need to understand," she pressed, stepping closer, urgency rippling from her. "Lily has been working with people who would sell you out. They put her in a position where she had to choose." Before he could respond, a low rumble echoed down the alley. Another moment of stillness. Suddenly, a blinding light pierced through the darkness. Jackson squinted, shielding his eyes as a car screeched to a halt. Out stepped a man in a dark suit, his face twisted into a menacing grin. "Looks like we've found our little runaway," he said, glancing at Jackson with sinister amusement. And then, as if in slow motion, a figure burst out of the car behind him. Jackson's breath caught. Lily. But something was off. She stood there, eyes wide, drenched in rain. Yet the look on her face was triumphant. "Lily!" Jackson yelled, confused, but when she lifted her head, there was no fear in her eyes, only a strange confidence, like she was the one holding all the cards. "Jackson, get back!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. He stepped back, heart racing, as tension electrified the air. The man in the suit turned to her, and they exchanged a look that sent chills racing down his spine. "Did you think you could hide?" the man sneered. "After everything?" "What are you talking about?" Jackson's voice cracked. "You two know each other?" Lily's expression hardened. "I had to do what I did," she said, the urgency gone from her tone, replaced by something cold and calculated. "It's all part of the plan." "The plan?" Jackson's heart plummeted. "What plan?" As the realization hit him, the world around him blurred. She wasn't just an artist. She was part of something bigger, tangled with these dangerous people. Betrayal wound tightly around his chest. "Lily, you can't mean," he stammered. But the desperate plea in his voice fell flat against her steely gaze. "I'm sorry, Jackson. This was never about you," she declared, a strange finality hanging in the air. And then she turned back to the man, defiant and assured. "Let's finish this. I won't let him interfere anymore." In that moment, everything shifted. The storm raged, lightning illuminating the alley as if mocking him. Jackson felt the ground slip away beneath him, staring at the woman he thought he knew. The sirens drew nearer, but now they felt like a distant echo. "Why?" he shouted, pain twisting his gut. "Because I had to survive!" As the truth clawed its way to the surface like a monster, Jackson could only stand frozen, fighting between disbelief and horror. What had he stumbled into? And in that burning heart of betrayal, he thought one last question. Would any part of Lily ever be real again? Jackson's heart sank as Lily's cold words hung in the air. The storm raged around them, each drop pounding down like the truth crashing over him. "It's all part of the plan," she had said. But what plan? Was any of this real? He searched her face for reassurance, but found only steely resolve. Confusion tangled with disbelief in his chest. "Lily, you need to explain." The words emerged as a desperate plea, cracking under the weight of his emotions. Just then, the ground shook. Jackson felt a heavy presence approach from behind. He barely had time to turn before the sound of crashing metal filled the air. A vehicle, a large black van, plowed down the alleyway, tires screeching, spraying rain like bullets. The air, thick with tension, shifted as the doors slid open. "Get in!" a voice boomed. It was a man, tall and broad, with a face carved from stone. Jackson's instincts screamed to run, but Lily's gaze pierced him, her eyes flickering with something he couldn't read. "Come on! We don't have time!" she shouted, urgency clawing in her voice. The man waved, urging Jackson forward. "You can ask questions later. We need to move." Before he could decide, Lily grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the van. The storm howled around them, the rain drumming like a countdown to disaster. Jackson climbed in, his heart racing, uncertainty twisting around his gut. There was no way anyone could understand what just happened. As they raced away, Lily turned to the man, breathless. "What about the others?" "The deal's off. We have to regroup." His tone was stern, clipped. Jackson felt the tension bubble beneath the surface. He watched them, wondering who this man was and how he fit into the chaos. Then it hit him. "What deal?" he blurted, shock and anger bubbling up. "What are you talking about, Lily?" She looked at him, her expression faltering for just a moment. "Jackson, please." But then the man cut her off with a sharp gesture. "Now is not the time to explain. You'll understand soon enough." Jackson couldn't take it. "I need to know," he pressed, his voice rising above the rumble of the rain on the van roof. I thought we were together in this. I thought you loved me." Lily's eyes flickered, a hint of sorrow weaving through. "It's complicated, Jackson." "What's complicated is trusting a woman who just betrayed everything she claimed to be." The words came out harsher than he intended, but the pain launched through him, erupting like a volcano. Then, before Lily could respond, the van screeched to a halt. They were surrounded by blinding lights, red and blue flashing like judgment itself. The sirens wailed, creeping closer, suffocating the air around them. In that moment of chaos, the man pulled out a small device from his pocket. "There's no going back now, and you have to be ready." Suddenly, an explosion rang out in the distance. A flash of light sent shockwaves through the night. It lit up the dark sky, illuminating everything for a heartbeat. "What was that?" Jackson shouted, holding onto the seat, flesh crawling with anxiety. But before anyone could answer, the man activated the device in his hand, and a blinding flash enveloped the van. Jackson felt the ground shift beneath him. The world spun. He heard shouts, chaos surrounding him, and then... darkness. When he opened his eyes again, everything felt surreal. They were no longer in the van. They were standing inside a sprawling warehouse, surrounded by people he didn't recognize. Every face mirrored the shock Jackson felt. But then he saw her. Lily wasn't beside him. She was across the room, standing next to a shadowy figure. The man in the shadows stepped forward, revealing a face, familiar, yet horrifying. His heart dropped. It was Lily's father. The man she had claimed was dead. "Welcome to the family reunion, son!" Jackson's world shattered. Everything he thought he knew disintegrated into dust around him. The room spun. Betrayal clawed at him, turning his thoughts murky and dark. How deep did this web go? "Lily!" he gasped, searching for her through the crowd. But confusion overwhelmed him. What had he gotten into? Why had she kept this secret? And how could everything unravel so brutally in an instant? The air thickened with an unbearable tension, and as facts twisted around him, one thought burned like fire. What was Lily's real plan? In that moment of realization, he understood. Nothing was as it seemed. Jackson's heart raced as he took in the scene. Lily, across the room, stood beside her father, a man he had believed dead. Confusion twisted in his gut. Unanswered questions clawed at him like a feral beast. Betrayal hung in the air, thick as the storm outside. "Welcome to the family reunion, son." The familiarity in the man's words struck Jackson like a punch. This was a nightmare he hadn't signed up for. Lily's eyes darted between them, apprehension and defiance waging war within her. But he couldn't understand. "Why didn't you tell me?" he demanded, his voice a mixture of shock and desperation. Lily opened her mouth, but before she could speak, a commotion erupted at the entrance of the warehouse. A group of armed men stormed in, faces masked and eyes blazing with intent. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Tension crackled like electricity, and Jackson's body went rigid. "Get down!" shouted the man with the blade, pushing Jackson and Lily to the side. The warehouse erupted in chaos. Shouts echoed as gunfire rang out, metal clashing against metal, glass exploding like confetti in the air. Jackson fell to the ground, his heart pounding in time with the gunshots. Confusion morphed into panic. He looked up, trying to locate Lily, but all he could see was a blur of chaos, a whirlwind of bodies moving in a frantic dance of survival. Then he saw her. Lily was sprinting toward him, but she didn't look afraid. She looked fierce, purpose glinting in her eyes. She lunged forward, grabbing his arm and pulling him closer. "We have to get out!" she yelled, urgency dripping from her words. But just as they turned, another figure emerged from the shadows. A woman with long, flowing hair, calm amidst the chaos. Jackson's mind raced. Why did she look so familiar? "Lily!" the woman called, her voice piercing through the noise. "You know what happens if you don't finish this." Lily hesitated for a heartbeat, her face contorting with conflict. "No," she started, but the woman stepped forward, revealing a small device in her palm. "Your choice, sister." Before Jackson could ask what they were talking about, before he could grasp how deep this web went, the woman pressed a button. A deafening sound filled the warehouse. The entire building shook. The lights flickered wildly, and the air filled with a blinding flash. Everything around them spun, the walls seeming to collapse, shifting like some twisted mirage. Then he saw it, a figure at the center of the explosion, cloaked in shadows. When the light faded, Lily stood there, her expression one of realization, one of horror. "No!" she cried, her voice echoing in the now silent room. Jackson stumbled back, heart racing as the dust settled. The woman was gone, and so was her father. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but her lips curled into a smile, not one of relief, but something else. "This changes everything," she whispered, her voice laced with both fear and triumph. "What are you talking about?" Jackson gasped, feeling sick. Was she in on this? But Lily stepped closer, pulling him into an embrace. The world spun, a kaleidoscope of emotions crashing over him. "I didn't know it would come to this." Her voice trembled. "Come to what?" Jackson's voice strained, desperation clawing at him. "I'm not who you think I am," she confessed, pulling back, tears spilling over. "I'm part of this world. It's all a game, Jackson, and I've been playing for my life." Before he could respond, a sharp voice shattered the moment, snapping Jackson back to reality. "Time's up." An unmistakable dread flooded over him. As he turned to face the voice, everything shifted once more. The room filled with faces, shadows dancing like phantoms, whispers echoing with a chilling clarity. Ha 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 ha. Jackson froze, heart pounding. Could Lily really be an architect of chaos? A traitor in disguise? The question burned like wildfire. What's next? He gasped, the void of answers suffocating him. And in the breathless silence that followed, the weight of the truth loomed heavy, a storm all its own. What did he really know? Jackson stood there, breathless, as the weight of Lily's last words sunk deep into his chest. I'm not who you think I am. Her tone sliced through the panic around them. He focused on her face, desperately searching for a flicker of the woman he thought he knew. But all he found was a determined stranger wrapped in a silvery cloak of secrets. You're part of this world? He echoed, the disbelief thick in his throat. Yes, she shot back, her voice wavering. But it's not what you think! I had to! Before she could finish, the atmosphere shifted. A low rumble, distant at first, grew louder, vibrating the very ground beneath them. It wasn't just thunder. It was a roar, a deafening engine pounding like a war drum. And a truck barreled into the warehouse, crashing through the doors, scattering pieces of wood like leaves in the wind. Get down, the man yelled, pulling Jackson and Lily to the ground. The sound of metal grinding against metal echoed, sending a new wave of terror through Jackson's veins. What was happening? Chaos swirled around them, shouts echoing off the walls, glass shattered, near explosions sending sparks flying. Jackson's heart raced. The sudden shift felt like a fever dream. Every breath tasted of fear, confusion spinning wildly. Then he saw it, a figure emerging from the smoke and chaos, moving with a twisted grace. Jackson squinted through the haze. The figure stepped forward, illuminated by the flickering warehouse lights. It was the woman from before, the one who called Lily a traitor. But now, something was different. Her face was transformed, twisted with fury, yet somehow familiar. Lily, she called, breathless, eyes blazing. You failed us! Do you know what you've done? What do you mean? Lily shot back, anger sparking within her. I'm trying to survive. Survive? The woman laughed, but it broke into a strangled sob. You think you can just run away with your pretty boyfriend? You think they'll let that happen? Lily faltered. What are you talking about? And then, with a roar, the truck's engine cut off abruptly. The rear doors burst open, revealing others, figures in dark clothing, falling out. One was holding something that glinted in the dim light. A weapon. Everyone back! The man shouted. Panic surged. Jackson grabbed Lily's arm, pulling her around him, shielding her from the oncoming panic. The air was heavy, every heartbeat laced with anticipation. Jackson! Lily cried, but he kept his eyes on the figures charging toward them. Then the woman stepped forward. I can't let this happen! Her voice pierced the chaos. Steel and vulnerability mingled. Without warning, she lifted her hand and pressed something against her palm. The click echoed like a death knell, a pause before the storm. In that fleeting second, everything froze. Wait! Jackson shouted, fear ripping through him. But it was too late. The woman's eyes widened, and with a deafening blast, the world erupted. An explosion, a shattering roar. An inferno of bright colors ignited, engulfing everything in its path. Jackson felt the heat wave wash over him like 1,000 suns. He was thrown backward, tumbling through the air, the sound of chaos fading into white noise. Time stretched thin, the world flipping and spinning until darkness pulled him under. When he opened his eyes again, he lay on cold concrete, every inch of his body screaming. Blinking away confusion, he surveyed the wreckage around him. The warehouse was gone, replaced by a jagged mass of debris, smoke curling like fingers in the wind. "Lily!" he shouted, voice hoarse and wavering. The panic shot through him anew. Where was she? Amid the chaos, he saw movement, shapes stumbling through the fog. A gasp caught in his throat as he recognized familiar faces emerging, covered in dust, expressions twisted in shock. And then he saw her, Lily, but something was off. Her eyes were wild, searching frantically, as if she'd lost everything. "Jackson!" she cried, and the sound pulled him like a lifeline. He rushed towards her, desperate. But before he could reach her, the man who had been with her stepped in front of him. A smirk on his face. "Looks like the game has changed," he sneered. Game? Jackson felt the weight of dread. In an instant, doubt twisted through him. What if all of this was just a trap? What if the truth was darker than he dared to imagine? And then behind them, he saw the woman rise from the debris, her hand clutching something, a small, black box with a blinking red light. "Lily's bomb!" she screamed, and Jackson felt the ground slip away as the truth exploded in his mind. The real question loomed heavy. Had Lily ever truly been on his side at all? Jackson stood rigid, the world falling away as the woman's ominous words hung in the dim light. Lily's bomb! Each syllable blasted through his mind, a thunderclap of reality that sent icy tendrils of dread wrapping around his heart. The warehouse burned around them, though he barely felt the heat. He was focus, all-consuming fear merging with confusion. What had the woman done? What did she mean? Lily's gaze darted to him, frantic desperation swimming in her eyes. "Jackson, you have to trust me." Before he could respond, the woman flicked her wrist, and the little black box erupted with shrill beeps, a countdown. Jackson could feel time slipping away, quicksand pulling him into panic. "What did you do?" he shouted, adrenaline surging through his veins. "I didn't choose this," the woman screamed, clutching the box like it was both a weapon and a lifeline. "You can't run from it anymore." Jackson's eyes widened. Run from what? But then, crashing waves of noise filled the air, drowning out everything else. The sound of sirens drew closer, drowning out their voices. Amid the rising chaos, he caught a glimpse of Lily, her hands trembling as she leaned closer to the woman. "Enough! You don't understand!" Lily yelled, voice strained. But Jackson felt his world tilting again. What didn't he understand? The storm of doubt raged, dark clouds overshadowing everything. "Lily, what's happening?" Then the sirens whipped into a frenzy, amplifying the chaos. Just as the first loud bang of law enforcement echoed through the wreckage, another blinding flash engulfed the room. Someone had pressed the button, and in that instant, the warehouse erupted. Smoke and debris clouded his vision as fear paralyzed him. The world compressed to a tiny point. Lily, her hands reaching out, desperation on her face. Then everything exploded into deafening silence. When he came to, the quiet was unnerving. Everything was a blur. He blinked, staring into the hazy remnants of the warehouse. Where was everyone? A fragment of horror welled up inside him. Lily? His voice trembled, panic creeping back. Then, out of the smoke, she appeared. But she wasn't just standing there. The woman was by her side. They seemed to be whispering, their faces close, sharing secrets in the thick haze. "Jackson? Over here!" Lily shouted, her voice cutting through the murk. He stumbled towards her, heart pounding. In the flickering light, he saw something in her eyes, a glimmer of resolve that pierced his confusion. She was alive. Relief washed over him, but it was naive. He still sensed danger looming. "What was that?" he demanded, breathless. "What actually happened? Did you set this up?" But before she could answer, the woman stepped forward, an unsettling calm in her demeanor. "See, Jackson, you don't get it. You're part of something bigger. We all are." Jackson felt rage ignite. "What do you mean?" But just then, a low rumble echoed from outside. Heavy footsteps marching. Command shouted. The police were here, and they wouldn't come for tea. They'd come to arrest. Everything swirled in his mind. "Lily, let's go," he urged, grabbing her arm. But she faltered, a pained expression crossing her face. "What if I told you I haven't been entirely truthful?" Her words sliced through the air, and with it, Jackson's heart dropped. "I needed you close." "To protect myself?" "Yes, but also what?" he demanded, his voice shaking. "To finish the mission." Before he could process the words, the world spun again. The doors flew open. A shadowy figure entered, standing tall among the debris. It was a man with a familiar face, both a ghost and a hybrid of anger. "Dad?" A jolt of recognition overwhelmed Jackson, disbelief replacing fear. Lily backed away, shock contorting her features. "What the hell? You're alive?" The man's eyes glinted. "I've been watching, and the game is still on. You can't escape now, Lily." Stunned silence enveloped the gathering, each heartbeat pounding louder in Jackson's ears. The echoes of their world shifted, secrets spilling like jagged glass, revealing layers they were never meant to uncover. "Mission!" Jackson whispered, staring into the depths of Lily's eyes, searching for answers that danced just out of reach. Everything shattered like a mirror, reflecting nothing but confusion. What had just happened? What truth lay beneath the layers of betrayal? As silence hung heavily in the air, one question rang out. Who could he trust now? Lily's eyes flared with shock as her father's presence hung heavy in the ruins. Jackson felt his heart drop, confusion slamming into him like a brick wall. "You're alive?" he breathed, his world spiraling into chaos again. She turned to face her father, fear mixing with anger. "You faked your death. Why?" "I had to protect you, Lily," he thundered, voice booming like thunder overhead. "But now you've betrayed everything we built." Jackson looked between them, his chest tightening. He wanted to scream, to make sense of it all. "No!" he shouted. You betrayed her first. You made her think she was alone. You kept her in the dark. The chaos that surrounded them faded for a moment. The shouts and explosions quieting as everyone paused, surprised by his outburst. Their eyes shifted to him, and the tension tightened. "Stay out of this," the father growled, taking a step forward. But Lily stepped in between them, her eyes filled with determination. "I'm tired of living in your shadow, Dad. I make my choices now." Jackson's heart raced. Was she finally breaking free? For the first time, he saw clarity in her eyes, a glimpse of the girl he had fallen for. The artist with fire in her spirit. "Go!" she urged, urgency spilling from her every word. "You need to leave. It's too dangerous." "Not without you." Jackson moved closer, holding her gaze. "You can't do this alone." A siren wailed in the distance, rallying toward them like an approaching storm. The air thickened with the weight of uncertainty. "You don't understand," her father hissed. "This is a web we can't escape. You're both in too deep. You play with fire, and you'll get burned." The words sent chills down Jackson's spine. Time seemed to slow as realization dawned on him. "Then let's burn it down," he said, voice steadying. "Jackson!" Lily stepped closer, hesitance creeping in, but he pressed forward. "No! Listen to me." Jackson grabbed her shoulders, searching her eyes for answers. "This is our chance. We can dismantle everything they built around us." Lily's gaze lingered on his. Was it fear or resolve that glittered there? In that moment, another explosion rang out in the distance, the sound echoing ominously through the ruins. Jackson pulled her tight, the heat of their connection igniting sparks between them. "Together, we'll make it. I promise." Her father drew back, shaking his head, a mix of anger and desperation on his face. "You'll regret this. You'll see." "Not if we fight back," Lily shouted, defiance ringing true. The sirens grew louder, but Jackson felt a sudden wave of clarity. He looked at Lily, a glimmer of hope battling the dread in his chest. "We have to move. Now." They took a step forward together, leaving the panic behind, confronting the chaos head-on. They rushed toward the looming entrance, hearts pounding, freedom just within reach. As they burst through the doors into the rain-soaked street, the world outside felt alive, buzzing with possibility and danger. But together, they could face it. They would rewrite their story. The sirens grew closer, the night vibrant and pulsing as they ran into the unknown. A path only they could forge, the shadows losing their grip. And as the storm echoed behind them, a question lingered in their minds. Where do we go from here? Their laughter rang out in the rain, a sound of defiance and hope. Now, dear friends, if you've enjoyed this wild ride, you must subscribe now. Don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that unfold from this world. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What happens next? Let us know what you think. Finally, share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. This is the time to show your support. Don't wait 1 second longer.